Good morning. All right, so I'm getting ready for my day, about to walk out the door. Slight funny anecdote before I read. My husband and I have this advent calendar, and it has little boxes, like little spaces in it, and I'll film it for you at some point. But we give each other little gifts leading up to Christmas. It's been a little chaotic this year, but anyway, I gave him a magic 8-ball, a tiny little magic 8-ball. And yesterday I asked it if I was gonna have a good day, and it said no. A good day today. And it said no several times, and no when he asked it. So later on, we were playing around with the Dorian, Ascended Master deck, Dorian's deck of demons, as I call it. And we asked what I could do to prepare for today. And it said two things. It said crystals. So I have my husband, this is actually one thing he got me in the advent calendar. It's like a protective crystal, a couple crystals on my ears, and letting it go. So I'm gonna do that. And but I think I found an exciting new option, actually, for work, which I'm excited about. We'll see how that blossoms this week. And anyway, with that, let's jump into the reading. It's been an interesting time. It's been a meh time. I've said that a few times in video. I don't know if I've posted them yet, but it's been a meh time. And I asked the deck about what's causing this meh time, or what is it about? And it said the spiritual law of attraction. So in other words, I'm creating the meh by being meh. And a lot of people are feeling meh, so we get to be the shift. Start with flip book. Abraham's flip book says, find reasons to praise. Apropos. It's not just in your face. It's not just in your face-to-face interaction that you make this world a better place. But whenever you look for reasons to praise or uplift, you spew pure positive energy. You create thought forms. You set things into motion that later others will think about them, add to them, and others add to them, and others add to them, until from your broader perspective you say, indeed, this is a job well done. Positivity. So the whole reason I started this channel was a place to look for some things, especially a few videos I've done lately that I haven't posted, but aren't necessarily praising or uplifting. It's sort of spotlighting something. And I think from there, it's important to remember it is about praising and uplifting. Sometimes it's about spotlighting a problem, mostly about praising and uplifting. And this would be why. I love that, because you spew pure positive energy, you create thought forms. We don't think about ideas being things because we don't think about vibration being real, because we forget we are actually vibration, and it's only our senses that are translating us into the physical. We think physical is real. Everything else is woo-woo. But in reality, everything is the same, and thoughts and ideas are actually the most powerful things. You are actually a thought or an idea that has been added to until it became physical. But that's a strange thing to process. Let's jump in. This is called It, the next chapter in the book, Alan Watts. Just as true humor is laughter at oneself, true humanity is knowledge of oneself. Other creatures may love and laugh, talk and think, but it seems to be special peculiarity of human beings that they reflect. They think about thinking and know that they know. This, like other feedback systems, may lead to vicious circles and confusions if improperly managed, you don't say. But self-awareness makes human experience resonate. It imparts that simultaneous echo to all that we think and feel as the box of a violin reverberates with the sound of the strings. That's such a pretty way to put that. It gives depth and volume to what would otherwise be shallow and flat. I don't know about you, but I've noticed this in people. So I'm a big reflector, in case you can't tell. I might say something, I might be passionate, but I'll think about it for days, things that happen, and dice them and slice them, probably too much so. But it also gives great depth to my experience, because I have made bad choices and I have reflected, and I've made good choices and I've reflected, and I've found the way to feel differently and impact what I'm attracting and creating through this power of reflection. And it does add great depth, but I find some people don't reflect. They almost are afraid of it. And I have a hard time relating to those folks, because they're just going through life, and it's like you could just make the same mistake a million times, and they don't have that depth. I mean, I've experienced that, but I've never heard it put so beautifully. Self-knowledge leads to wonder, and wonder to curiosity and investigation. Wonder. When was the last time you felt wonder? And wonder to curiosity and investigation, so that nothing interests people more than people, even if it's only one's own person. I find myself very interesting. I hope you find yourself interesting too. Every intelligent individual wants to know what makes him tick, and yet it is at once fascinated and frustrated by the fact that oneself is the most difficult of all things to know. Isn't that true? It is fascinating and frustrating. It doesn't make any sense. For the human organism is apparently the most complex of all organisms. And while one has the advantage of knowing one's own organism so intimately from the inside, there's also the disadvantage of being so close to it that one can never quite get at it. Nothing so eludes conscious inspection as consciousness itself. This is why the root of consciousness has been called paradoxically the unconscious. Isn't that funny? I didn't think about that. Unconsciousness or subconscious is like the piece of consciousness that's so big you can't get to it. And I think this is a fascinating way of saying it. And of course, if you add Abraham's knowing that there's a spiritual component of you and a physical component, it helps understand why it's so confusing that you have two minds, that you have the mind that's in the physical that believes it is this physical being and is sort of lost in that experience. And then you have the spiritual component that's kind of looking at everything and doesn't get as caught up in the physicality or experience of being the physical being, but is reacting to what the physical being is experiencing and attracting and creating based off that. There's a wedded relationship, if you will, between the two, but we're often living with knowledge of only one, and that can make things very confusing. I think the more we understand about how they both exist and work together, the less confusing it gets, because we have more than one mind. And that's why sometimes we can seem so deep and brilliant and wise and amazing and happy and joyful, and sometimes feel so depressed at the smallest things, like a flat tire, or, is the end of the world, or, a breakup or something like that, when a piece of us is also vibing at global consciousness. So I think it's a very fascinating thing, and that's what provides us our complexity, is the physical mixed with the spiritual. The people we are tempted to call clods and bores are just those who seem to find nothing fascinating in being human. Their humanity is incomplete, for it has never astonished them. And your humanity should astonish you, being human. There's also something incomplete about those who find nothing fascinating in being. We're so busy these days. Who can be still and know? Who knows what being is? You may say that this is a philosopher's professional prejudice, that people are defective who lack a sense of the metaphysical. But anyone who thinks it all must be a philosopher, a good one or a bad one, because it is impossible to think about premises without basic, and in this sense, metaphysical, assumptions about what is sensible, what is the good life, what is beauty, and what is pleasure. Did you know you're a philosopher? To hold such assumptions, consciously or unconsciously, is to philosophize. Oh my God, I love that word. I didn't know that was a word. I thought I made it up. I love Alan. The self-styled practical man of affairs who poo-poos philosophy as a lot of windy notions is himself a pragmatist or a positivist, and a bad one at that, since he's given no thought to his position. If the human organism is fascinating, the environment which accompanies it is equally so, and not merely as a collection of particular things and events, or biology and science, as he's saying. Chemistry, biology, geology, and astronomy are special fascinations with the details of our environment, but metaphysics is fascination with the whole thing. I find it almost impossible to imagine a sensitive human being bereft of metaphysical wonder, a person who does not have that marvelous urge to ask a question that cannot quite be formulated. If, as we have been arguing, the only real atom, as Desjardins put it, is the universe, and the only real thing is everything, then what is it? We take away that magic by slicing and dicing it into bits, but that's what's so funny, and his main point, especially in the book, is that you can't slice and dice it because the thing you're talking about doesn't exist if it doesn't have its environment, so it's not separate. And we have this idea we came into this world when really, as he says, we came out of it, and I've been thinking about that more and more, and it's true. We sort of come into the primordial ooze and ooze out into the world. We really do come out of the world, not into it. We weren't human before we got here. We might have been something else, but to be here, we're human. It's kind of like Avatar. To live on the Avatar's planet, you gotta have an avatar. You can't just run around being human. You know, the guys with the masks, it doesn't work that well. So you have to be part of the world to be in it. And so you come out of it, not into it. And this idea, certainly I was raised with, and most are, that we're completely separate and come in separate and stay separate. That's why we aren't working well with nature or each other, because we think we're different and we're here to represent a certain point of view. But we're not. We're all just having a different kind of experience. And rather than having empathy and seeking to understand the different perspectives, we think we're here to judge and punish and control. But as Abraham says, we're not here to fix anything. The world's perfect as it is. It's really just a creative playground. That's it. We're just here to play and create and have fun. And no one else's world needs to affect you unless you pull it in. And so there's a power and focus. There's a knowledge of who we're being and how we're vibing and what that's creating around us. And I really appreciate this conversation before I start my day. It's very helpful. Thank you. Be well. Have a wonderful one.